hopefully at this point, you know how much you need as far as hydration goes in your events and your training, because it's going to be one of the keys to race day as far as the other aspects besides swimming and biking and running that you've been training for. Nutrition and hydration are key out there. And if you don't have the proper way to get that hydration with you across either 56 miles, 112 miles, or even Olympic distance, it's pretty important as well. If you go over 24 miles, you need to figure out how to store your hydration on your bike, especially to get that Olympic distance. Usually they don't have aid stations on the bike course. Half Ironman, 56 miles, usually they'll have 2 or 3 aid stations, and Ironman races, they have a little bit more frequency of aid stations, but you need to have a good game plan of how you're going to get that hydration on your bike, keep it there, and be able to get access to it over that event. So we're going to talk about hydration setup on your bike. Again, another off-season topic I want to tackle. Get it figured out now. You're not, at this point in time, you shouldn't be having too many races coming up in the near future. Now's the time. You're not doing as much volume in your training. Now's the time to kind of go fall back and investigate. You know, maybe you did do a full, had some experience. Like I didn't get enough in on the bike. I had problems of getting something at aid station, figuring out where to put it. Or maybe you did a half and you're going to move up to a full, and it's becoming more and more evident you need to figure something else out that's better. And that's what we're going to talk about. So hopefully by now, you've either watched one of my videos, one of my talks, one of my chats, one of my tips, one of my pointers to work on knowing your sweat rate. So you need to, especially doing all your different workouts. I've posted many times, weigh yourself before and after, find out what your sweat rate is. Do it inside, do it outside, record the variables as far as the weather goes, the temperatures, the humidity, sunny, was it cloudy, whatever. Know your sweat rate, because if you don't know it, you're kind of guessing how much fluid you really need to take in per hour. So that goes into figuring out, okay, aid stations are 15 miles apart. My average speed is 17 miles an hour. So over this amount of distance, I need to drink this much and be able to take this much from the aid station and put them on my bike to get me to the next aid station. Because typically, unless you're doing an extreme triathlon, you don't have the opportunity to maybe get as many chances at an aid station, but usually Ironman race, you got about 1 every 15, 20 miles, and you got plenty of opportunity to kind of restock. But if you don't have enough space on your bike to put it, you don't have a good game plan, kind of hose, because then you could fly by the aid station and like, well, I don't know where to put it, or you have to stop and take bottles off and throw stuff away and mess with it. You really don't want to be worried about that, especially during the race. So make sure you know how much you need, and kind of typically over the course of the race, what you need to be dealing with. Do know the distance between the aid stations, so do your research on the race. Typically, most Ironman races have little maps and tell you where the aid stations are, so know the distance between the aid stations, because that will kind of play on, like I just said, how much do you need in between each aid station, how much can you get rid of, how much space can you make on your bike, where you're going to put it, and all that kind of good stuff. Do you need your special mixes? Are you an Infinite? Are you Tailwind or whatever? How many of those bottles are you going to need? Does the special needs area, is that an opportunity to reload? If it's going to be hot, like Ironman Chattanooga, fluid was the name of the game in 2019. You guys do it in 2020, I'd be ready. 95 degrees out there. It was okay in the first loop of the bike. Typically, once you get that second loop, that sun really hit and humidity kicked up, heat kicked up. And especially personally, I was using part of my water, squirting it down my back to keep myself cool with my tri-suit. Worked out great to keep me cool. But if you're not accounting for that, then you don't have enough storage on your bike that you're using some of the water to keep your body warm, and then you don't have anything to drink. That can cause problems as well. So know the terrain, know the conditions of the race, know the difference between aid stations, and potentially you're not just using water to drink, you're also using it maybe to cool down as well. But like I said, special mixes, if you got special mixes, if it's going to be sitting outside in the heat in the special needs area, it may be all for naught anyway. You can put, what I've done in the past is I've frozen water bottles and put it in there with the special needs stuff to keep it cool. Typically that worked, especially Ironman Chattanooga. That was able to keep my special needs stuff pretty cool. By the time I got there, there's still ice in the bottles, so everything was cool. So take that into consideration too. But if you have to have special mixes and you're not going to have an opportunity to get it at special needs, or you don't want to stop or anything, make sure you have enough room on your bike to get you through the entire race of what you need for your special needs or your special mixes. I said special needs. Also consider there are several different options. I got tons of stuff that goes to the handlebars, stuff that goes to the frame. There's different options to put hydration everywhere on your bike. There's some systems that will go on the rear bottle cages and have little tubes that run up and you can drink it while you're in the aero. So got to be comfortable. If you're going to do a hydration system that's up in the handlebars, you have to be comfortable leaning over and getting the straw. Most of them nowadays, the straw is bent over and there's a little magnet to keep it flopping around and stuff. If you're old school, I had the speed fill system, so it went on my bike frame and then had a tube that went up and I zip tied it, but it had the little thing just flop around and I kind of tuck it into my cable cords and stuff. But be comfortable, like if you're going to do that, be in aero and be messing around with that water bottle, whatever, or if you're going to have to be on drops, figure that out in your training. That is my point to that. So if you're going to pick one of these systems, get it now, figure it out in training. Try to get it outside and use it, especially when you don't have the option of being on the trainer and being stable. But even if you're on the trainer, getting it and trying it out, just being in the drops and seeing how you're going to have to fidget with all that stuff, it makes a difference. Because if you're not comfortable, you're not ready, if it's a little breezy on the course, you know, Chattanooga, like I mentioned, it was hot, but it wasn't exactly windy. For those doing maybe Ironman Tulsa, there might be a wind out there. A little cross breeze will catch you, and if you're sitting there sipping on your aero and you're sipping on your hydration, it may cause you a problem. So be aware of that. The system you choose may require a little bit more dexterity than you're used to on the bike. But I've also used rear-mounted hydration systems, so cages on the bottle on the back. So it hooks up to the seat, bottle will go in here, but it's behind you, so you're riding along, you've got to reach around to get the bottle out of here, and you've got to pull pretty good to get it out. So if you're not prepared for that, you need to have that. If your shoulder's not mobile enough to reach around there, if you're not comfortable, one hand on the wheels and the other one reaching around there, know that now. Do you need to stop to actually get the water bottle off and stuff like that? To be safe. The key is to be safe. You don't want to wreck because you're trying to save time and being narrow and all that kind of good stuff. If you wreck your bike, the race is over anyway, so it's not really the moot point. But make sure that you have the mobility and flexibility to reach around if you're going to be doing that. And especially if you need to ride around a few times to try it out. Because after time, it's muscle memory, you know, where that cage is at, especially when you're trying to get it back in there. Because the last thing you want to do is litter on the course. And if your tri-suit doesn't have half the pockets, you can stick it into the jersey. If you can't use it, then you're stuck with a water bottle holding onto it. And unless you possibly want to get dinged or just don't like the litter in general, you're going to have a problem. So take that consideration when you're looking at hydration systems. Yeah, they all look cool when you put them on the bike, but are you going to have the flexibility, the mobility, the dexterity, the comfort factor to use them while you're in the race? Also consider maintenance and cleaning. So if you look at my speed fill, take the lid off, but I mean, you can't, it's not easy to get down the end there with a brush. So you have to be diligent about cleaning these things out, or else it'll get moldy, it'll get gross, and the last thing you want to be doing is drinking moldy fluids out of here. So I personally, when I was using this, this is water only, because I put sports and drinks in here and stuff, and you get done with a race and the stuff sits on your bike while you're doing the marathon portion of Ironman. It's kind of gross, sticky, and gnarly. And when you pour it out and it's just everywhere and you've got nothing to clean it out with, and you stick it in your bag and Tri-Bike Transport brings it home a week later, it's just gross, gnarly, and pretty much to the point you have to throw it away. Especially the tube, you don't clean that out too. So that's why I went water only in this guy. But past that, it's there. You get off the bike and it is hard to reach in there. You can find special brushes and stuff. It's hard to clean the tube out. I had to replace the tube every year because it was just gross and gnarly in there, and there's really no good way to clean it out. Even if I was just drinking water out of there, it gets trapped in there and it's kind of gnarly and gross. So take that consideration, maintenance and cleaning. At least with water bottle systems, all you do is you have to clean the water bottle. You don't have to clean anything else. I mean, obviously keep your bike clean and parts and stuff so they're not sticky, but that's a good consideration as well, because if it's gross and moldy and you can't clean it, you have to throw away and buy a new one anyway, because trust me, you don't want to be drinking out of moldy water bottles and stuff. So the other factor is how much you want to pay. I mean, you look, this is just a snapshot off the internet. Some of these are 27 bucks. That's not horrible. $116. So this one, has all kinds of features where you can put, some of them have a little spot for your bike computer if you're putting it there. Especially if you're training on your trainer and you just don't want to take the stuff on and off all the time. You put your bike computer on there for riding and being an aero. Stuff that just goes between the handlebars, but there's no frame for that, so that's just a bottom replacement. These actually attach to the frame, a little holder, and it's an actually extra kind of big reservoir for fluids and stuff, so that might be a good option. But this one's like, full on whiz bang, it's got the aero profile and everything goes on the front. It's the latest thing, the Canyon bikes, Don Ferdinand, and I know Quintana is coming out with their own version of this. So there's tons of different ways to go. So like I said, now's the time to do your research, to figure out, do you want something on the front of the bike? It does add a little bit of wind resistance, but then it's right there. So if you're in an aero, all you gotta do is slip the tube up and drink, and you don't have to get an aero. But let's be realistic. Probably 90% of us are not going to be in an aero the entire time of a bike ride. And personally, after doing 7 full Ironman races and 13, 14 halves, I've got away from the tube-mounted hydration system that has a tube where you're up in the aero and drinking from it. It was just kind of a pain in the butt to take that stuff off, especially when you're doing tri bike transport. You have to take it off, put it in a bag, carry it with you. So I went to 2 cages on the frame, so one on the diagonal member, one on the seat tube post, and then a rear mounted 2 cages on the seat. So I've got 4 water bottles at all times. So I start the race. Typically I leave one of them open because at the beginning of the race, if you got 4 water bottles, you need to pick one that's a throwaway because you don't want to be sitting there shuffling bottles. You don't want to have to refill it. So if you're not using one of those refillable, and typically these, grab a water bottle at the aid station, refill it, but you have to be quick so you're not throwing away that water bottle past the aid station cutoff and littering on the course. So you have to also be comfortable doing that. But with the water bottles, basically I left one spot open, and typically, in the first 15, 20 miles, I'm not going to drink 3 bottles worth of stuff. So I had 2 that were my personal mixes. I had one on the frame that was water, made sure I was drinking according to my sweat rate, my hydration plan, strategy. That way, if I didn't have one of my bottles empty by that time, I just put it in the empty spot, either water bottle, Gatorade, whatever I wanted. And the next aid station, you toss it at the beginning and then grab a new one, either water or sports drink or whatever you're doing. So that was my alternate system for Ironman Chattanooga 2019. So you guys do it in 2020. That's something you could do as well. So basically, like I said, I just left one open, so I didn't have to mess with filling up a hydration system. I didn't mess with, I've only got 2 spots for water bottles. I used to have one on the handlebars, 4 water bottles, but it's just, they leak over time. It causes a mess. It's just kind of a pain getting it in and out and having to take it off for transport. It was just a huge pain in the butt. So I simplified as best as possible. So I got 4 cages, 2 on the frame, 2 on the back, and that has supplied me with enough fluids and hydration and my special drinks that I mix up before the race. And then when I'm out of that, I just go to Gatorade Endurance. It's on the course usually. So moral of the story is find a system that works. Spend that off season kind of investigating what you think you want to use. If you think you want to go for the whiz bang, maybe try out eBay. Find a cheaper used version or cheaper version and put it on your frame, try it out. Do it indoors, try to get outside, do some bike rides, or just wait till the spring and then pull the trigger on something. Go out, try it out, see if it works. Because at the end of the day, if it's not comfortable, if you're not going to use it on race day, or you don't want to get to the end of the bike and your hydration is still on your bike because it's just difficult and uncomfortable to use it. So off seasons, now's the time to do some investigating, figure out what you want, get your target, set it up, either get it and then try it out. And try it out outside when you're doing kind of long runs or rides and you're starting getting your race specific training. So I know we went through that rather quickly. We did do a little bit deeper dive than just kind of a 3 tips or 5 tips or something like that for hydration. So hopefully this helped you out and gave you a little bit more insight and information on the best practices for your hydration system for your bike.